Hello.
I heard you, Sal, if nobody else.
Oh, you did. Good.
Hi, Sal.
Hello.
Long time no see.
Yeah. How are
Sorry.
you?
I'm fine. Uh, yeah, gosh, I think it's been a while. Like I was telling somebody that this project means so much to me because I started the work on the master plan when I was first pregnant with my daughter, and then I delivered her while the master plan was being delivered. So I feel like I
Yeah.
gestated a master plan as well as a human. I'm just doing economic development on every level, Sal. That's really what it is.
Yeah. How do you like parenting?
Oh gosh, I love it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a blast, isn't it?
I have a 5 and a 2-year-old, so they're just
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
cool.
I'm in the grandchild stage. We've got
Do you
three
love it?
grandkids. Like,
Is it as cool as
oh,
I heard?
oh yeah, they're 10 minutes away, which is nice.
Oh man, that's the
So,
dream.
yeah.
That's the dream.
Wonderful but exhausting.
Really? Still as a
Well,
grandparent?
spending a few hours with a 6, 3, and almost 2-year-old.
Oh God. Yeah, no, that's
It's pretty
chaos.
wild. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. David, my boss took my kids for a couple hours when I was on medical leave and took them to the park and he's like, I haven't been in bed before 9 in years. I was like, I'm really sorry. It also, yeah.
I got a note from Ben, who seems to be on another. Ben, are you there?
He should be hopping on shortly, Sal. It's Kelly. So the link, there was a separate link that was out there
On
circulating.
Teams. Yeah.
We're jumping on, so he should be coming on shortly.
Okay. Okay, great.
But just for the record, this is the link that's on the agenda officially.
On the site. Yeah, that's where
Yeah,
I
so
got it.
this is the right place to be. This is the warned link.
Okay,
I've
good
had
deal.
this problem too, Kelly. I don't know what it is. Microsoft pretends that like it's in charge and takes over and adds a Teams link somehow instead of Zoom. That's what happened on my invite. It says Teams underneath and there's a link to it. So
Yeah.
mine does it too occasionally.
That's what's on our calendar invite is a Teams link. There's Ben. Hi, Ben. Can't hear you.
It's going to say different, but I think we're all finding our way.
Okay, great. So we're all here. I will call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. How much time do we have in total here today? Does anybody know?
So we have an hour blocked
An
off for
hour?
this meeting, so to 1 o'clock.
Okay, all right, that's quick. Let's approve the agenda. Any changes in the agenda requested? No. What happened to Adrian? She was here, I thought.
I haven't seen Adrian.
Huh.
I can text her.
Yeah, are you doing that? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just text her.
Well, I'd like to wait for it if we can. I mean,
Sure.
Sal, I would argue that the committee has the discretion on how long it holds its meetings, even though we didn't set a start and a stop time. I think you could extend yourself even if staff has.
yeah, we'll say, I know, yeah, thanks, Steve. I know Stephanie's time is probably limited.
And if I might, Sal, I'd just like to note that staff is available for this meeting. We're trying to be considerate of the counselor's time. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm also available past
Okay,
long if
great.
that's not needed.
Hey, Adrian says that she keeps logging into Zoom, but nobody's there, so I think she's got the wrong link. Can somebody maybe email it to her?
I'm doing that now.
Are you doing
Or
that?
I'll give her a quick call.
I hate to think of the cost per minute we burn with this level of organization.
Adrian.
Sorry.
Oh, hi, Adrian. Welcome.
So sorry. I was on another
Yeah,
call.
It's
for work.
okay. Yeah, it's been confusing. We were just about to approve the agenda. I have heard no objections, and hearing none, the agenda is approved. It brings us to general business and public comment.
I'll make a couple comments.
I'm timing you, Steve. We have time limit. Go ahead.
I'll wait for your siren to go off.
Beep.
So I've been asking for the records regarding the third required phase of the site assessment, and apparently it hasn't been completed or even contracted for. I remember forwarding the council a paywall notice that they wanted $120 to give me the current process, the current records, but apparently there's no Stone Environmental contract approved in recent city council agendas, which means that the Stone Environmental supplemental site assessment hasn't been started. And I don't know whether you want to ask Kelly to respond to this, but we may be in violation of federal law of having allowed the kids to enter this building before we've completed a asbestos, lead, and PCB analysis. So this is another example of the kind of ass backwards planning that we're paying top dollar for. So unless you can get confirmation that Stone Environmental has been contracted, which didn't show up on a city council agenda, and that their KD Associates subcontract has been completed, we're in trouble. And this bears on whether or not we're even eligible for the CDBG grants, because we're not in compliance with National Environmental Protection Act. So it's just a real mess. And I wish y'all would spend more time, instead of just listening to the spin of the staffers who are creating the mess. I'd rather you take the reins and sort it out. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Let's get right to the agenda item number 4, the Whitenburg presentation. Welcome, Stephanie. We anxiously await some discussion of your proposal. I really appreciate this outline. We're particularly interested, of course, in the timeline, but also the role that the subcommittee plays versus Whitenburg
Sure.
and the full council. So
Sure. Kelly, do you want me to just jump in, or do you need to do a?
Yeah, please jump in.
Okay.
I think it's one of the things that is on the agenda for today is to kind of talk about roles and responsibilities and kind of clarify, what we're aiming to do. So maybe we'll go through the introduction, and then after that, if there's, further clarity that's needed, then we can certainly do that.
Okay, great. Well, it's really nice to be meeting with you folks, and I apologize I wasn't able to come on in person in September. I was on medical leave, but I'm back, and I have worked with the city of Montpelier over a number of years doing different projects and different advising, and really my work is just to expand capacity, much like you have outsourced real estate legal and other legal. You usually have outsourced real estate consulting instead of in-housing it. So that's really my role. and to kind of guide you to meet your goals here. So I'm happy to do this. I'm excited to jump in. I care about this project a lot. I think you should know this. For Sal knows this because he was with me during the whole 9 months of developing the master plan. But Adrian, I haven't gotten a chance to meet you, and Ben, we've only just met, but I'm passionate about this project. I love the potential that it holds for this city. So I'm in it and I'm happy to help see how we can get some private investment into this, because that's really what's going to lead this forward. And I think what's really important to note is that we're in a new era of this kind of work where municipalities, and this is true across the country, it's not just in the state of Vermont, but municipalities playing a more active role to be, helping forward the type of development they want to see, rather than a passive role of just allowing what they want to allow via zoning, like actually putting skin in the game to create, to do the infrastructure to incentivize the type of development you want, is just so forward thinking. And it hasn't been done a ton in the country. Public-private partnerships have been restricted to a lot of cities, big cities, but we're seeing a lot more of that across all rural states. And it takes that entrepreneurial spirit and forward long vision thinking to be able to put this into practice. So this is one really important component, because you're really trying to get the private partner to the table, the right private partner, the folks that are going to align with your vision, as well as have the financial and personnel capacity to do it. So what I've done is develop this timeline and some steps. And I thought what I could do is go through that timeline and explain it a little bit and what our thinking was with it. And if you have some input into, like, I don't think that's going to work for whatever reasons that about Montpelier that I don't, happy to work through that a little bit. And then talk about what the homework will be from this meeting, and then maybe future meetings. Because I can only do so much. I don't know what you want in particular. So I'm going to do my part with Mike and Kelly to develop kind of the background and create the kind of framework that we all have that's already been adopted by the city, the master plan background and things like that. So there's some context that can be drafted independently, and we'll do the drafting in general anyway to bring it back to you. You don't have to sit putting pen to paper, but you identify what it is you want in or out. So with that context, I'm going to sure.
Just before you go get started, I think I know people will have questions, and I just assume if you feel it without, I don't want it to get out of hand and delay us, but it's a lot easier to answer questions in the moment.
Yeah.
So if people have questions, they can jump in. If we feel like it's dragging on, we'll
Sure.
interrupt and move on. But
I think that's right, Sal, because this is this is a workshop, type approach, and it's
exactly
a fast track. So we got to be as nimble and responsive as we can be.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to share my screen because I think it'd be easiest to walk through the document as a group. And I know that this was sent to the subcommittee this morning.
How about a quick explanation of the difference between an RFQ and an RFP? Yeah.
Great idea. So I'm going to zoom in a little so it's easier for some folks. Okay, so an RFP is can be broken up into 2 phases. And if you could call it RFP phase 1 and 2, or you could call it RFQ and RFP. An RFQ and the phase 1 is a way to get people to the table, developers and interested parties to the table, it's twofold. It's really outward and inward in my mind. It's outward because you're kind of getting the word out that we're ready to go. We've got plans, we've got visions, please, know about it, and get their interest. And then the receiving side, which is who's out there, who is interested, and what's your deal? What's your story? What's your capacity, your portfolio? And so what you want I consider it a funnel. I think of it like a funnel. You've got RFQ up here, which is the wider part. So you can gather a lot of people to the table and see what they bring to the project, and then whittle it down with RFP. So the RFQ starts with a lower lift. You want folks to come to the table with ideas and energy and interest, and you want to evaluate their qualifications. So it's asking for qualifications, expression of interest, kind of a general make sure they understand what you're wanting and make sure that you know what they've got kind of in mind. But don't make them put a lot of money into that and time, because it's possible. Best case scenario, I mean, we're talking maybe a different climate than where we are right now, but best case scenario, when these happen, you get a lot of interest, and some of them are real wild cards, or they just don't feel like the right fit for your community. And you just say, okay, thank you, but no thank you. And you don't want people spending, 8 out of the 10 spending all this time and money putting together really intense proposals, only to say that's not even close to what we were thinking. So you do a first stab where everybody's doing a submittal of interest and expression of interest in quals, and then you do a second round where you say, okay, we've selected these people to submit a proposal. And the proposals when there's a lot more detail, and that's when you can do full interviews and really get into who's the right partner or partners. Does that make sense, Sal? And do we need to open it if anyone has questions? So
Yeah, no, that's great. I hadn't heard that differentiation before. It kind of makes sense, and it seems like that makes this certainly more doable under the time frame.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that helps because, when there's a deadline in front of you that I know about, that what you want to have is somebody, in order to apply for this, is to have a party or have a process established. That'll be what you can deliver on, which is we have a process. We know how we're going to find our partner. We've got, we're going to be shortlisting this shortly. It really does. I think that fits with this calendar right now.
So I would think that into the RFQ, we would want to anticipate the questions and that developers will have about the project and give them the answers in that RFQ.
Yeah, exactly. So that actually goes really nice segue into the timeline, because that's one of the steps. So can I go into the timeline, and then that might kind of answer some of those questions, Sal? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever you think worth.
So what I'm suggesting is a kind of approach is to start with just what is the subcommittee going to do over the next few weeks, because I've been tasked with getting this in front of council on the 22nd, which is ambitious, and we can do it. I'm optimistic. I'm a positive person. We'll try to do this. And then, the RFQ process itself. But basically, the subcommittee is going to be responsible over the next few weeks of developing these components. We're going to all work together. That's the next section of this agenda, which is the actual work of this subcommittee right now. But that will happen over the next few weeks, and sending those materials to the full council in the packet on the 17th, which is a Friday. And then the 22nd is the date by which the council could vote on the RFQ. Now, all of this assumes we're getting yeses along the way. So again, this is an ambitious timeline, and it's followed this in some communities just like this. That has worked. And in other communities, there's delays for whatever reason. So we also are butting up against the holiday season. So we just have to acknowledge the realities of that. So I'm trying to build that in, but let it be known, this disclaimer at the top says, it's recognizing the urgency of the grant deadlines, accommodates holidays, but it's still ambitious. And if it gets pushed, I hesitated sending it this way because I much rather under promise, over deliver, and say, more like June for this last date by which we'd have a signed partner. But it could go this way. So I'm giving you best case scenario right now. So I just want you to fully accept that. So if we get the RFQ voted on the 22nd, we get it out on the 23rd, we'd propose having a site visit on the 6th, so that's when people can get to the site and start asking questions, and give them a few days to get those questions into the city. And then we have a few days after that to distribute them. I didn't put a deadline on that. We could put a deadline right in there that the questions are then, what we do is we compile them from everybody and have to send it to the whole group that we sent it to, because they should see everybody else's questions too. And then that would mean that the big deadline here, this is the one we like to look at here, is November 18th. That's when they submit their qualifications and statements of interest. So that's when you get in all your different ideas from these different folks and start having an idea who's interested, who's at the table. We could do interviews. This is not a guarantee here. We don't have to do interviews for just the RFQ process. I did put that in because I wanted to give you the opportunity. If it could just be an informational phone call just to gather a few more bits of information. It's any kind of follow-up we want. And then in the meantime, it's also drafting the RFP, which is a bigger, like you said, Sal, a bigger lift that there's going to be more in that the city has to do. And so then the city develops a short list and decides who to send the RFP to. And that's kind of another big deadline. That's December 5th. Now, I don't know the process well enough, so I'll look to you to decide. Do you need the full council to decide who to send that RFP to do that invitation for the short list?
I think we do.
Okay.
I think
didn't know.
that's sort of the purpose of the subcommittee, is to get this out there and then bring it back to the council.
Excuse me. This is Bill Kaplan. I'm a little confused, and excuse me for jumping in a little ways into this, but isn't the idea to get as wide a net as possible and for your RFP, as opposed to filtering it and then only going to a select few? Isn't it more of a public process?
So it starts with the funnel. RFQ gets everybody to the
No,
table.
I understood what you said. I'm just saying I have experienced processes where it goes right to an RFP, and then you can in that RFP you have the qualifications, and if someone's unable to do it, but it's a broader net and it's a more likely to find. And when we're having concerns about will anyone even be interested?
Yeah.
I don't understand. And on top of that, there's a time frame pressure.
I think what you're suggesting, what makes sense, what I should clarify is that it's very possible you will only get 3 proposals and all of them will get the RFP. It may not be a shorter list. It may not be a smaller funnel. This is in theory, but you do have this has happened many times, is where you get people showing interest that are really not aligned with the city's vision. And we don't want anyone wasting their time on submitting a proposal or us having to review a proposal that is not at all in line. So what it does is it really gets people to the table, and it removes the barrier to entry, because maybe there's a wild card out there that's a really good idea, but they don't have those upfront resources. We don't want to limit that. So it's actually a more inclusive process to start this way.
So how do they get helped with those resources?
Well, once they've been selected to shortlist and to do a proposal, they can go out and look for those resources, but then they've been invited and they know that they have more confidence that they're even close to being in the consideration from the city.
Interesting. Yeah,
This is Holly Fowler from the Complete Streets Committee. I have to say, I kind of agree with Bill that I'm not sure in such a tight timeline that having the RFQ process is necessary. It seems like we would want to leave more time to parties to develop their full proposals for the RFP.
Well, it shortens the amount of time we have available for the RFP, doesn't it? I mean,
not necessarily. I mean, you've got to put, the RFP is going to be a bigger lift for you to write. There's going to be a lot more in there for you to develop, which means it's going to be a longer runway before we can get anybody to the table. So in terms of the timeline that I was told from the city, in terms of having the application ready by the right deadline, to have the application say that there's a process and we have people interested, I don't think we're not going to hit that deadline if we have an RFP first.
well, my sense of it, just to respond to Bill and Holly, is that the RFQ, now that I understand how it works, actually gives us a pretty quick idea of who's interested in what we want, without going through a much broader process with the RFP. And I would just as soon do that knowing that we're pitching the RFP to people who have a better understanding of what we're after, particularly considering the time constraints that'll be imposed on everybody. But
and from a transparency perspective, just for what it's worth, the evaluation of who gets to be invited to a proposal is a part of this process to come up with the criteria and to come up with the matrix by which you're making that decision. So, you'd have the basis for who you invite. And again, a lot of times it's going to be inviting. Right now, it's like, most of our community, in many of the communities in the last year or two, it's been very few people that have been able to bring anything to the table to say it's workable and pencilable. So the question is, you could go to just an RFP. You could, and that was what we were originally asked to do. And then we were told what the timeline is. This deadline of December 18th. Is that right, Kelly? What's the deadline? December 18th. I don't have. Oh,
yes, that's right.
Sorry. Yeah, there it is. Oh, I'm still screen sharing.
And to be clear, the application for the DR money is for the infrastructure from the circle to the existing building, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
And when is that deadline? That's this February deadline?
December 18th.
December 18th application.
And so I was told it would be helpful to be able to, go into that application, put in our application that says we have a process established. We've got a short list of folks that are interested, and here's who's interested, the types of folks that are going to submit proposals. And you're not going to get that if you do an RFP.
I see. So that's what we're shooting for here is a qualified list. And will that is that sufficient for the grant application, or do you actually have to have a developer named?
It's all we're going to have, I think, is the point.
I understand that, but
I'm just saying,
if it doesn't meet the criteria,
right. I see your point.
We're having a fire drill for.
Right. I see your point.
Nothing.
I've heard it does help. Yeah. But Kelly knows probably more than I do, or Mike does, but I don't see Mike. So.
Yeah, I think we are trying to position ourselves in the best possible light. So when we applied for the Community Development Block Grant DR funding in this first initial round, we actually did not have the developer or the LMI piece that we needed. This will give us those factors. We are working on getting some more information from the state, but what we're given for information is that it's pretty favorable right now if we continue on this process. And so I don't think it's a fire drill. I think it's necessary to kind of get to where we need to go.
No, I didn't mean that in that way. If it's disqualifying, but it sounds like it's a point system and this just adds to your points. Is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, I understand now. I'm sorry I didn't before.
Appreciate the input. I'd really like to keep moving, though. We have a lot to cover, but thanks for the comments. And we may, return to it later in the meeting.
Okay. So let me reshare this so that's bigger on the screen. All right. So if we then send the RFP to the folks we've identified, and I will add a step here that the council needs to confirm that short list based on the recommendations of the subcommittee. I'll add some steps in here for you, and you can make sure that looks right. And then it's a 5-week. So again, that may extend this timeline. It usually it's a 5-6 weeks usually, and then you've got holidays in there to give folks the time to put their proposals together and have a clear, have the clarity that you want in there of their financial plan and their full plan of the use, the mix of uses, the mix of units, the affordability, all the things that we're going to be asking for. And that gives you then a few weeks to do a review and do interviews, full interviews and deliberations. And potentially, I don't know when the board meeting is for that CDBG-DR, but that could potentially be the, I don't know at what point you'd know, and it just depends. So much of this might change, getting the interviews scheduled, things like that. So potentially you'd have the board meeting right around the time you're selecting a developer. So by the time you go to your interview for the grant, you're saying, you know, you may or may not have a partner selected already, but it's a selection, and then you've got to do the development agreement and P&S. So that is further negotiation. I wouldn't call it a lock until you're through that process, because a lot can change for folks and terms can become a stalemate and things like that. You know, you can run into all kinds of problems along the way. So you just got to leave yourself enough time. So that's why we're looking at maybe April by the time you get a P&S signed with a partner or partners. Are there any council questions on that for now?
We still have everybody?
Okay.
We do,
Looks like
yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you, Stephanie.
All right. So with that in mind, and I'll update it and send it back to Kelly and she can send it to you. But with that in mind, I wanted to talk about what we are going to be doing over the next few weeks and where the input is and what the sections look like. You may have seen one before, an RFQ document go out. And if you have, then this will look very familiar. It's kind of some standard sections, but then there's a lot of variability in between in the sections themselves. So I'm going to go through the structure of what the RFQ itself would look like. And then down below, I've got some, we may not get totally through this in the time allotted, but rather this is kind of setting the stage so that you can then take this home and think about it. But we could do some brainstorming even today about what I've done is kind of developed the start of a menu, but I don't want it to be limited to that because you know your site and your town better than I do. So it's important for you to think about what you want and what you're asking for. So real quick, this is the outline. We'll do a purpose, you know, kind of big picture, what's been the history, but also kind of this first purpose is really capture them. It's executive summary style, highlight what's this going to say and what are the biggest incentives, what's going to bring them to the table. And I think we can draft that. Obviously, this all comes back to the subcommittee. I'm saying lead input here and kind of everybody gets a review. So but this is just to get the ball rolling. And that some will have blanks to begin with because some of this refers back down to the sections below. But project highlights, it's bullet points, it's talking about the concept, it's talking about the features of the site. And then background is kind of a combo. Background is going to explain fully more the history, the fit, the purpose of the project within the community, within the region. Talk about the readiness, things that have been done to date so far. And that's helpful. Keep in mind, like any work that's been done on this site to date is giving them data and value that they don't have on other sites, for example. You know, other sites around the state may not have those prepaid costs, basically, you know, when you've done your due diligence in certain ways. And I'll go through what this says here, which is this could include some additional requirements that you may want to put in. That could go in this section. Sometimes it goes in the section below. There's some fungibility here. And then you really want to talk about what's the partnership opportunity. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but this is where I've highlighted subcommittee this is where your big lift is. So partnership opportunity, it's what you want to offer and what the site can offer and what will attract them. And what makes this more feasible than maybe another site. Then you're going to ask for their qualifications and their expression of interest. Again, you can go really extensive with this, but I just caution you, this is developers' busy season. They're trying to finish up projects before the snow flies. So keep in mind, the more you ask for, it could potentially be keeping people out of the running, keeping people from proposing if there's a big lift for them to do. And then going down further, selection criteria. Again, this is what you're going to be evaluating them on for the next phase to invite them to propose. So this is where you could start, you know, looking at really the most qualified or the most aligned with your vision. We've got deadline. The rest is kind of these three sections are pretty boilerplate, you know, deadlines. We give that outline basically like we did already, but make sure the proposers know, give them the logistics, some of the boilerplate terms, like the fact that we're not responsible for their costs of preparing it, supporting documents, all of these things that planning department probably already has, but just things that they might find useful and helpful in orienting them. And then the last section is kind of, you can do it in two ways. You could make it really expansive and extensive and say, here's the things we're going to be asking for in the RFP. People do this sometimes that they have more time, but we don't have that time. So this is probably going to be more of a general statement saying that, you know, when you get, if you get invited to propose, then we're going to be asking you for more detailed plans and financing, et cetera. Just a heads up. It'd be nice to give them more specifics, but because I don't want to commit us to that, I'm not saying that right now. That's the structure. Any questions on the structure before we go into the bit nitty gritty?
Point of clarification, this is Holly Fowler of Complete Streets. The reference here to the master plan, should that be to the city plan?
That's up to the group.
I wouldn't, Holly, that's a great question. So I think that there are a couple of different plans that we might want to be consistent with, but I think for the intent of this RFP, it would really be more specific to the Country Club Road plan.
So the CCR action plan.
Correct.
Okay.
That was just a suggestion. I would, you know, I think what I would ask of Mike Miller is to put together the materials and list them out as to what he thinks should be included. And that becomes part of the draft that the subcommittee reviews to just check that all of the things that should be in or shouldn't be in will come in and out. These were kind of a starting point. Okay. Hearing no further questions, I'm going to go into this section where we can kind of talk about what you're looking for and what you're willing to offer. So I gave this, you know, preamble here, but again, keep in mind that this is not exhaustive. These lists are just kind of a menu and a sample of the types of things you bring, and the city could have unique things that they bring to this that you want to add that I don't know about. Also, you know, as I said before, just keep in mind that the more you ask for, the more you may limit who comes to the table. So again, a good chance to sharpen the pencil and ask for more is in the phase 2. But you should have all the options because it's up to you. So this section on background, again, I might even move these into the next section about the partnership opportunity, but you know, this is really what requirements you may have. I know that the CDBGDR has some specifics in it, so you'd want to include those there. Then these questions, these are all, I mean, some of these are obvious, of course, responsible for all local, but you know, it's not necessarily obvious. There are communities that have changed this as the requirements. So I just, you know, we put it out there as options. Again, I don't need to go through all of them word for word. I'm just leaving them on screen for you to read, and you can debate them after. But these are the types of things that are considered other requirements, kind of more general based. And then you've got the options that I call incentives, which is how do you invite them and bring down barriers, because this again is a hard project to pencil. So what are you offering and what's going to really be attractive? Purchase price for $1, waive your hookup fees. We're going to take care of offsite improvements. And then this is where you get into how much of the infrastructure are we able and willing to come to the table with, or we're applying for. It doesn't have to be a done deal, but you know, we're applying for this. Come be with us, come be our partner in this, because we want to help you get a project that pencils and brings the right mix of product to the market. Again, we can go back to all these. I'm just going through it to start. Again, these are options to choose from. These are the types of things that they would submit in their application, in their first proposal, which is obviously a cover letter, kind of with the expression of interest, what their general idea of a project description would be. And again, we need to get clear. I don't know that I'm clear on what area we're talking about. So we need to get clear on what part of the site that this is subject to, and then further, they can clarify, are they interested in developing that entire area or just a portion? That would be something you'd want to know in this first round. Again, housing affordability, we may not want to ask them for such specifics. It could be just like the percentage of units might be too specific. I would argue it may be like important to like let up a little bit on that during this first one. Maybe it's more of a attach the VHFA, what's it called, like the maximum rental and purchase rate threshold document that's updated every year and say, you know, we're looking for things that fit within this range. Do you agree? You know, and just leave it at that. It could be just, again, that we're looking at alignment and making sure it aligns with the vision. Again, I probably wouldn't ask for financials at this point. The projections, that feels too specific for just an RFQ, because they may not have time between now and November, or whatever date we said for that first deadline. And schedule could be more like a general flow. What do you expect? And kind of, are you thinking of a 2028 construction or a 2030 construction? And we have this limit within the DR money that needs to follow a specific limit. So that's important too. And then quals and resumes and relevant projects, those are all kind of your custom stuff, or your customary stuff, typical stuff, and financing, their financial capacity. So that's your kind of general qualifications. Now, I'm going to go through this next part quickly because it's similar. This is your criteria that you can establish up front that reflects back to what you've asked for, right? So do they meet those goals? Do their qualifications show? What do their qualifications show? How do they show up? The financial strength. Again, if you're not including the ones up above, you'd take these out below. So you can see if you spend time on it, you can see the correlation, what they submitted versus what we're evaluating. And then we can develop the matrix from this. Now, we don't have to share the matrix out. It's not usually part of the package. The package is just the list, but we could, in this group, create the matrix that then you fill out when we get all those back. And you can do either, it's usually a blend of qualitative and quantitative, because it's not necessarily, but you could specify, all right, well, I mean, usually we do that in the second round, is more quantitative, because we're not trying to just select one with this RFQ. We're trying to just winnow down the funnel. But again, you might just have a kind of comparison so that you can see it all in one place.
Stephanie, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just thinking about that space between the RFQ and the RFP, does that also provide an opportunity to like coach folks that or like build the capacity of folks that put in an RFQ, you know, and kind of help them shape an appropriate or competitive response to the RFP?
But it could, exactly, Ben. And it could also be, you could have multiple people proposing or submitting qualifications, and they've not talked to each other, and you realize there's an opportunity for a combo here, and you suggest it back to them. Hey, because it becomes public then who's put in those things. So you could say, hey, if you talk to those people, this would be a really nice fit. And that way you get these more robust proposals, which is to your advantage. I won't call on people. I'll leave that to Sal. Sorry, I'm not gonna.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just don't want to be in that.
Adrian, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just have a quick question. Thank you for this. What is I don't see this in this process, but I'd like to learn a little bit more about your marketing strategy to developers, particularly outside of Montpelier. I don't think we all agree on the vision of this, and I want to ensure that we do reach out to developers that are, interested in smart growth, livable communities, really a diversified set of developers that we could attract different ideas to build on to this beautiful land that we have here in Montpelier.
Really good point. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to add that to the schedule that I will bring. I'm trying to think of at which point, but the list of the distribution list, basically, for where this goes. I can bring that back to the subcommittee within the next 3 weeks. So you can be looking at it, adding to it, asking questions, send me out on, can you find somebody like this in that area, that kind of thing, if it's missing. I'm just trying to think if we needed full council approval for that, which we could. I mean, that's okay. Because we're trying to send it out on the 23rd. So we should have it locked in by then. So if you also want to give the rest of the council a chance to opine on other folks to add to it, we could do that. I'll follow your lead on that. I don't know, but yes, that is a good point to add that in as one of the steps for you all to have input on. I have a distribution list started, but you know, that's kind of like, that's the starting point, and then we add to it.
Great, thanks. Holly?
So two quick things it just made me think of. I understand, like explained to Bill and I earlier, the purpose of the RFQ. The question is, though, because of that short timeline, are we then not able to invite anyone who doesn't submit to the RFQ if there are other potential parties that become aware of the opportunity in the interim, right? So just thinking about how to maximize proposals, basically, when we get to the RFP. So are we artificially limiting that with the shorter timeline, even though it helps the objective of the CDBG application? So just want to put that on the table. And then just in terms of semantics, are we only talking about a housing development versus, to Adrian's point, you know, a neighborhood development? So just putting those out into the universe.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm still writing down the first one. It's a good question, Holly. I don't know the answer to the first one. I think we could, if you wanted to leave it open. I mean, there's no rules around this, like in general. I mean, there's, you know, it's kind of what you put in your document, you're kind of held to in a way, right? So I would say if you wanted to be able to invite people to propose who had not put in an expression of interest, I would want to probably include a disclaimer in the RFQ that says
preference will be given to those who submit an RFQ.
Or,
like, totally understand that it's total gamification to meet both the objective of CDBG and also allow us the most opportunity to attract the most pool. So it could be that, you know, you write into the weighting of your eventual rubric that preference will be given to those submitting an RFQ.
Yeah, it could be. But I guess that your point was, I think if I understand, one of the ways you could look at this is that, like, well, what if somebody doesn't find out about it until after the RFQ date passes, in which case I wouldn't want to necessarily penalize them in a point system, but rather it's just making it clear that even though you don't submit the RFQ doesn't mean you're. Yeah, okay, I see your point. No, never mind. I just myself.
Well, I think it's a good question. Can we, Stephanie, can you make a note to, you know, to include it in our discussion when we, you know, before we
let me think on it and come back to I can come back with a suggestion of how we do that. But that's a really good point. And then, sorry, your second one was the whole neighborhood versus a housing development. Yeah.
Semantics.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that it could be beyond semantics, right? Like, it kind of has to do with when you describe the vision and you're talking about what it is that we're looking for. Yeah, making sure it's clear that developers expand beyond just maybe singular in that way. So let's make sure we include that in the language. Okay.
Steve. Is that a stray hand? I guess so. Peter.
No,
oh, you're there. All right. Go ahead, Steve.
So, Stephanie, you keep referring to your vision, and you even referred to ask for more than phase 2. But I'm troubled because I asked when David was here at the council that apparently y'all agreed or conceded to Mike Miller to throw out the phase 2, which was one of the core recommendations of your actionable plan, is to develop the vision from the vague outlines that were in the actionable plan. So we don't have a vision right now. We know we have a place that's too far to walk to Montpelier. So in my view, it has to be designed as a village. And yet we don't have any clarity on what components of that village are. I think as a real estate advisor, why aren't you advising that this is no way to actually pursue an RFP when you don't have your vision yet? To chase a grant just seems to be really backwards. Right now, we've got no master plan. We've got no agreed upon vision. We've got no traffic study examining the limits of the Route 2 interchange. We've got no alternative road option. And we've got no basis for building a financial model about how we would pay back a TIF.
Thank you, Steve. Stephanie, I don't know if you have a response to that. It's
I have a few more items, Sal.
Well, let's take
uh,
one at a time. I was
we
going to
need
ask
to keep
Sal.
Steve.
Sal, I was just going to ask you, you know, I was gone for a little while here. So, you know, last I left you was 2023. And since 2023, there's been additional work done. So maybe you can opine on what version of what vision is, you know, going to be included in this, and what's the, or is it, I think there was a further iteration of things that was done last spring that I was not involved in. So I'm deferring to the city to guide that part of the RFP.
Well, yes, under the current circumstances of particularly of this compressed timeline, we are hoping to find out what developers are, what interest there is among developers, and then to use the time we have between that and signing to evaluate additional input, which is being gathered now, and which we all have. You know, we all have had some input from the community after that formal process. We have not had an extensive phase two, as Steve mentions, but I think we have a pretty good idea of the parameters for an RFP.
And I thought the message I heard in the last few months here was there was a quantity established out of the actual master plan process that felt like the right fit for the council at the time based on the public input. What kind of density this
in terms of number of units and so on.
Units, yeah. And so that could be considered, you know, one of the points that gets included as what we're looking for from a developer to achieve or to go work toward in their proposal.
Well, yeah, and I think we still have to vet all that in terms of the finances. The information that we have is a couple of years old on cost estimates and so on. But I think, especially listening to you talk about what goes into these requests, I think we have enough information to communicate our wants and needs to the development community and see if we get anybody to bite. And then from there, I think it's kind of a negotiation.
Oh, yeah. And it's a partnership. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, the city can decide it wants a lot of things, but when you don't know what's actually buildable these days and what the actual costs are, and so it becomes a bit of a vacuum. So getting the private partner to the table, you know, this again is not going to be within a short period of time a lock in on whatever they decide. It is absolutely a partnership that has to evolve and has to be a conversation and looking at the numbers. What can the, you know, infrastructure support, and based on the development plan and going through it. I mean, that's what a public-private partnership is. This isn't an outright sale.
Yeah. Peter, briefly, I hope. Thank you.
I'll try.
Long time no see, Peter. Hi.
Hi, Stephanie. I think the question that's being asked right now, I just want to comment one thing. Unfortunately, there hasn't been that much more work done. And we do need, if we're going to we're trying to gauge the interest among developers, the interest in doing what? Now, I think if we go back to the plan that what was the actionable plan, we can extract from that a general wish of the community and everybody who has made input. But what we have to guard against is an interpretation of that the specific pictures and the specific map is in any way suggesting where that people need to respond to that. So the more conceptual it is, then it makes sense to invite developers in to participate in the discussion of what is possible. So I just wanted to clarify that point. Just one other point, however, I do think this is being rushed in order to apply for the initials grant. And I think that is in and of itself foolhardy. I do think that it does make sense to do an RFQ, because whatever we do on the RFQ will stand us in good stead for developing the RFP, and will get us off the dime and get us to really have greater clarification. But I think that this is somehow going to be ready by the December deadline for an application for money that may no longer be there at the time, and that we'd be unlikely to get much of, I think is delusional.
Thank you, Peter. Let me just say that in the previous meeting, we touched on this a little bit, and one of the principles that's really driving members of the subcommittee is the idea of a partnership with a developer. In other words, we hope to attract a developer who is not going to impose a rigid structure on our wants and needs, who is going to be more adaptable and that would include, you said, it's important to not take the actionable plan layouts literally, and I 100% agree. And I think we haven't avoided that in many cases, and I still worry about that. But I also think it's very difficult for people to evaluate a development until they see it. And that's what worried me about the concept A, showing buildings in particular places. But when we have a developer showing buildings in particular places, that's a good time for the community to weigh in and say, gee, what about this and what about that? And I'm hoping that we find a development partner who's willing to go through those iterations. I don't know if other folks have a similar opinion, but that's where I'm coming from. Adrian.
Okay, I'll be quick. So just thinking about this of risks and opportunities, because that's how my brain works. So from a risk perspective, if we don't get any developers, which that is risk 100%. So I would like for us as a subcommittee to think concurrently, applying for the Central Vermont Regional Planning Grant, which is due November 3rd concurrently. I don't know if that will mess up any process, but I want to make sure to think about that as an opportunity. Go through this process, reach out to developers, do our due diligence, but simultaneously think about if we don't, we can still go through that process, get a planning grant, work on our plan, have that in the queue to continue to work through this process. Two, I really want us to think about a financial feasible analysis for the TIF. So as we get the developers in, I really want to have very clear, concrete, 100% numbers for 2025, 2026 to see if this is financially feasible to ensure that we can repay that TIF. And, as the developers are proposing this, we need to be very conservative as a city to ensure that we're not on the hook for any funding out there. So I really want those numbers concurrently as we start getting in these developer numbers to ensure, yeah, that's great. That's going to help us repay, right? Like, I don't know what that number is. And so I think just thinking through those processes as a simultaneous path to ensure that we reduce the risk, increase our opportunities, because in the end, we all want housing. So how do we ensure that in a responsible way that reduces the risk to the city?
Sal, can I comment on those?
Yes, please do.
Adrian, our brain, it turns out our brains think similarly, but I'm grateful because I did not put that in yet, but you're right about the financial feasibility piece. I wouldn't do it with the first round, but in the second round, when you get the proposals in, we could start doing some financial feasibility. It's going to be a little tough to figure out. Hopefully they'll have enough. It'll kind of be dependent on the scale, I think. But I agree. I think we could do some initial financial feasibility to understand what that if it pencils, if it works, if the cash flow works, if there's enough there for TIF or CHIP, which is more likely here. And I wonder. I mean, I hope we're at that point. That's like my real hope. But either way, even if once you've selected your developer, either way, you're not on the hook for anything until you sign a development agreement. And then even after the development agreement, you're not on the hook until you actually borrow money. And in the development agreement, there are lots of different gatekeeping pieces like green lighting opportunities so that the city doesn't incur any debt or start anything until it's really gone through it. A lot of that like penciling and calculating, number crunching happens during the development agreement because they're advancing their plans. We're doing feasibility of the infrastructure and so forth. I would love to see us in a scenario where we're like, oh man, there's just too many good partners and we don't know yet. And we have to protract that, we have to lengthen this process. That'd be a great place to be. Like, so when I say best case scenario that we're fast tracking this, with this timeline, it's actually not. It's the best case scenario. We get some really awesome potential partners and we have to run a lot more numbers concurrently and we have to do a little bit more work on this. So that's a potential possibility. That's a possibility. The other is I love a backup plan. So I'm with you. Like apply for more grants, sure, but I'm not the planning department, and so don't ask me. But because you're gonna, because there's gonna be a lot of work though. Even if you got developers, there's gonna be a lot of work for feasibility work, and pre-development costs are the hardest thing to fund, whether you're municipality, private or public. I also wanted to talk about briefly is the importance of bringing a partner to the table at the right time. And this is, even if I wasn't being brought into this and we weren't doing this right now, I'd say this is the right time. Because if you want to see housing developed here anytime in the next few years, we are looking at the biggest onslaught in a good way of housing funding, housing energy in the state. And the developers are active right now. And so this is the opportunity to seize. And we can do a lot more background work on the site, but we can do that in tandem. Again, this is not like a sale to a developer within the next 5 months. This is a partnership. This is bringing someone in who's going to be a thought partner with us, who has a long view of this. And I think, and it could be just more than one partner too, and I think that's really important because that's going to drive this and create more robust and meaningful conversations in the community about what's going to go there versus kind of in this hypothetical bubble in the vacuum. And I do have a note here that about the vision and the general wish. I think there's to Peter's point about the caveat that this is that the concept plans that have been put forward are non-binding. They're not the layout that anybody needs to follow necessarily, that opens it up to a lot more creativity that maybe the private sector could drive rather than what's been done to date. And then it comes back to this group to decide. So I can put when we draft this, you'll see this language in the coming weeks. We can draft some of that language and then that gives you the opportunity to make some concrete suggestions.
So what I'm wondering, and I'm really directing this to Adrian and Ben, for your input, Stephanie. In order to accomplish this, I don't think we can do all this without homework. That, in other words, if we've already blown through an hour of this meeting, I mean, we would be having these marathon meetings where we thrash through all this stuff. If it were me, I would want to sit down and address the sections. Maybe we divide and conquer, I don't know, but we come up with everything we can think of, we share it, and then we come back into the meeting and we share those documents and we discuss them and make decisions. I can't think of a way that we can make this happen in less than 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Without some process that is that happens before we actually get together. Any other ideas?
Yeah, I just say I totally agree. I think that's why it's really important, Stephanie. I think looking at you, like we can do the homework. We need the homework assignment.
Yep.
Right. And so like, what is the input that's coming from the committee? It's laid out in the outline, right? But like, let's get specific assignments of like, Sal and Adrian, we'll all go off to our corners, right? Like complete the homework assignment, come back to the meeting, hash it out and compare notes rather than do generative stuff in a meeting itself.
Well, I wanted to ask the question for the homework to guide the homework, because I agree. That was my hope is out of this. I would send you with worksheets basically. But my question is about process, because I don't know how your committee works. But if you wanted to do it independently and then send me your independent lists you know, because basically I'll kind of bucket it out into the lists that I've outlined there, and give you fill in the blanks kind of. And do you want to do it independently? And then I can merge them together for our next meeting. And these might be really quick turnarounds, just letting you know, because that's the timeline we're on. But, or do you want to do like a group document where you're live editing and giving comments to each other? Okay, Adrian's a
think we
hard no
can-
on that. Okay.
I don't
yeah.
think we can do that, Stephanie, right? Just from
Oh.
like a public, if we can,
Exactly.
I mean,
This is
that,
why
like,
you
I
have
would love
the
to have a
phone.
Google sheet where we all just like
Yeah,
work
no,
on it. I don't
sorry.
No,
think
you're right.
That
Thank
is
you.
I don't
a
think we
that is
can
a
do
no.
that.
That is a hard no.
But-
Got it.
Yeah.
But
Got it.
But Kelly, can we send independently stuff to Stephanie and have her do like a cluster analysis of where is there overlap or like where are the outliers?
Yeah,
You know, that
so-
might just accelerate the process so that when we come back to a meeting, it's like, we all agree on 75% of this stuff. And then let's just focus on the 25% we don't agree on. Just from a process point of view, it feels like that meets the open meeting requirements and would accelerate the process.
Mhm.
Yes, if Stephanie is
Yeah.
up for that, then
Yeah, and I
work.
wouldn't want to eliminate, yeah, exactly. My goal would be bring all of those tables, all those
Right.
things back to the table, not eliminate anything, but exactly
Right.
what you said, Ben, we're gonna have some overlap of things everybody agrees on because it's customary, normal stuff. Let's spend our time talking about just what,
Right.
and let you get creative to bring things to the table that someone else might not have thought of.
So it further occurs to me that we need to schedule more than one meeting a week and cancel the ones that we don't use. I know that sounds a little bizarre, but I mean, if we scheduled a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday meeting and then canceled Monday and Friday, you know what I mean? If otherwise, I mean, we can't sit here and talk to each
Oh,
other about this without a warned meeting. I think we have to warn them in advance and cancel them if we don't use them. I mean, Kelly, am I crazy or what?
No, I think that that's the way to go, honestly. I mean,
Okay.
and we can definitely get that scheduled together. I know that at the last meeting, the lunchtime hour is really tricky, but
Yes.
it's also a consistent hour that we could probably pull if people are up for that. And then I
Well,
will.
that was my
get it
next
scheduled.
question. What days and what interval and what hours fit everyone's schedule? And how do we
Yeah.
how do we figure that out?
I have a degree of flexibility. I think it'll be important to just see the days and I can kind of plan around that. I mean, I'm looking to you, Adrian. I'm also
saying
available
my
early
8
in the
o'clock
morning if that's
AM is
helpful.
good. 8 o'clock AM
Yeah,
is good for me every
me
day.
too.
I block off 8 and 9 to get work done, but this might be my work.
Yeah. I guess I would agree with, I mean, whatever. It could
Yeah.
be early in the morning, it could be in the evening, but but whatever.
But
I
it's
think if
just,
we
it's
just
a
had some
sprint.
options.
It's, not a marathon, so
Yeah.
you're not gonna have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
go for a super long time.
Yeah.
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 I would
And there
say
are a
8
lot of
o'clock
frost
is-
delays at the golf course these days, so 8 to 9 is fine with me. Yeah.
Any day 8 to 9, I'm open. As I said, I blocked that time from my calendar, so I will open it up to this. So
Does that fit for others who would need to participate, Kelly?
I have no other clients, so sure.
I think so. Yeah, staff can definitely be available at that time, and it turns out that like that hour actually is when we try to like if we need to squeeze something in, it's usually the hour that is kind of like available. So what I would though ask is when do you want to start that? So when would it make sense based on the homework that needs to be done?
Yeah.
So like Monday is going to come really fast.
Yeah, Monday's not
And
gonna work.
yeah, and that's not going to work. So do we want to start maybe like on Wednesday of next week?
Mhm.
And then start a cadence that's like, I don't know, maybe it is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday until
Well,
we're,
and it's only 2 weeks, really, 2 weeks
Yeah.
plus,
okay.
so
So maybe we start Wednesday and then, the other thing we could do too is we could add additional days if we needed to in the second week. Like maybe we could see how the first two go.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah,
Monday,
well,
Wednesday, Friday might be good.
next.
And I'll also just say, I think like the more homework we have, right, where we're coming back and reviewing our homework as opposed to doing I think the better this is going to be. It'll be more thoughtful and it'll accelerate the process.
I'll just flag that there's 2 conflicts over the next 2 weeks. One is town fair
Mhm.
next Wednesday, which I'm obligated to be at, and
I'll
the
be there
following
too.
Monday is Indigenous Peoples' Day. So I don't know how people operate, but
Well,
Poll.
So that's why it just, yeah, it might need to be we might need to pick our days right now and just pick the days, and maybe it isn't a cadence, because I mean, it's only a 2-week thing. We don't have to say it's every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I think at this point. But I agree setting them now so that we have them and then we can cancel them if needed. But the earliest, I think, yeah, I do think next Wednesday technically should be our next meeting, but I could be Tuesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday works for, I mean, I'm retired. It's up to you guys.
Wait, what was the town fair day?
Town fair is Wednesday.
So
And
why don't we plan to meet Tuesday at 8? And then we can meet Friday at 8, so it's twice next week. No?
Can't meet Friday at 8.
So
Oh, no, I
Thursday-
can. I'm sorry. I can meet Friday at 8.
So Friday
you.
the 9th at 8, Tuesday the 7th at 8. We'll skip Monday the 13th.
Tuesday again?
Well, 14th is our meeting, so I
Oh.
think
Tuesday would be tough.
Tuesday, well, I can't, we can't.
Adrian
How
and I.
about
The
The
15th is
15th.
our meeting. The 15th is our meeting. Wednesday?
yeah, 14th is a Tuesday.
14th
Wednesday
is a
the-
Tuesday. We have our homelessness workshop from 9 to 12, so I think that's an out. Will be. How about Wednesday the 15th at 8?
Mhm.
And then Friday the 17th at 8. So that's 4 meetings between now and the 17th. And then homework will be critical because I think during those meetings we'll review, we'll edit, and then we'll build. And so by the 22nd, you'll be ready to send.
Adrian, what was the last date after Wednesday the 15th?
The 17th, October, Friday.
Yeah.
Great.
And then just so you all know, I am gone the week of the 20th. I'm in Atlanta.
Oh, well, you better cancel that.
Like
Okay.
full day, like 15-hour meetings that whole week.
You'd
And
love to
city council
cancel.
too, so.
Who are you kidding? You want to cancel that?
Are you going to want me at that council meeting on the 22nd?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that would be delightful.
I'm going to add a babysitter to my contract, just letting you know.
Yes, seriously.
Bring the kid. Bring the kid.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good idea.
Oh no, it'll be just fine.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just need to say, sorry, folks. I really can't meet at 8 o'clock on the 17th. I
Okay.
could meet at 9:30. I could meet later in the afternoon. I'm sorry, but that's
maybe-
just
No, and that's the day the council packet goes out. And when we wanted to
Mm.
finalize this, Kelly, does
Mm.
that matter to you in terms of getting that council packet out?
So I mean, what we'll do is we like to have everything kind of pinned in. And so we're already, on borrowed time once we get into Friday for development.
How
Long
about
story short.
Thursday instead, the 16th, even though we're meeting on the 15th? A day can matter, we could down to the wire, we might need to just meet back to back. Does that make sense?
I have a doctor's appointment at 10,
Can
On
you
the
do an 8
16th.
a.m. and get
but I
back?
could
there?
I could do an 8 and still get there if we don't go ridiculously long. Yeah.
So you want to do Thursday? I mean, the other thing that we could
Yeah.
do is if we have to, we can put a placeholder. It's just it would be nice to have the materials in the packet so that then people can review it. So that's up to you. But that's typically what we're trying to do is make sure that everything's complete.
we'll be polishing on the 16th,
So
right?
the 16th
we'll
at
be in-
8, we'll polish, and it'll be
Okay.
ready to go into the packet on the 17th. That's our goal. That's what we're working backwards from.
That sounds,
So we
that
got-
sounds great.
Okay, great.
4 meetings still. We're just condensing 2, but to try to get everything ready by the 17th for Kelly to put in the packet.
So what did we decide? We moved the 17th to when?
The 16th at 8.
16th at 8.
16th at 8. Okay.
Thank you.
Kelly, you'll
And then
be
we'll want
sending-
agendas for each of those meetings. I think if we're working backwards from the 17th, we'll just want to know, right? So what is our goal for the 17th? And then working backwards, what do we need to accomplish? Who's going to take that task? What is their deadline? Be prepared to come, send it to Stephanie so she has time to compile and review, right? So this is
Yeah.
Right.
going to be pretty tight.
Yeah, I'll put together, that's on my list, is to put
Okay.
together the homework and the deadlines within.
Okay.
Now, some of that's going to have to flex depending on what we end up getting stuck on, right?
Yeah.
So, as
Yeah.
the conversations evolve, we may not know exactly what we're going to be spending majority on and what the goals will be, but let's make a target for each of them and go from there.
And we decided that you would give us homework assignments. We would send our assignments to you.
Yeah,
you would collate and redistribute and so on. Okay.
Yeah, whether
Um,
I'm able to redistribute before the meetings or not is really dependent on how quick. I mean, I just have to look at the timing. It may
Yeah.
be unveiling the combination of it during the meetings. I don't know.
Yeah, well, ideally with a little lead time, but there's not a lot of lead time to be had. So
Yeah.
we'll do the best we can.
We're
Yeah.
gonna sneeze and the deadline's here,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, it's just
Kelly, can we use a kind of boilerplate agenda for each of these 4 meetings?
We can, yeah, and we can
That-
also, I can work with Stephanie once we've got our assignments to just kind of make sure they're in alignment. But we could certainly do that. Do you
Okay.
wanna, so maybe we can get together just for time, we could talk about the boilerplate, I can go off of what we have, but there might be, it's a little bit specific. So,
Yeah,
we can figure
okay.
that out together.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, just let me know what works for you.
yep.
Okay, so where are we? Can we agree on anything today?
we've agreed on schedule. We've agreed
Yeah.
on general timeline. Do we have consensus that Kelly sends the homework? I'm trying to, I don't know, I want to stay within process and also not add steps if they're not needed. So what do I need to do? Who do I send to and who can send to me?
Well, so I think if the counselors are sending directly to you, and
Yes,
then maybe if you're then sending whatever the result is back to me, then I can get it to them, or you can cut me out and you can go direct to them. Either way.
but I understand the open
It's
meeting.
just,
law.
it's the
Their
counselors that
response.
really, that can't deliberate in between meetings if they're not
Yep.
warned.
And you know your limits. So just, yeah. And if I'm pushing information out, I can push it directly to them.
Do we need to post all that information, Kelly? In other words, all the homework that we send, it becomes public documents as well as the document that,
Not just yet, because you were
Mhm.
developing the RFP, and so it is
Okay.
deliberative in nature. And so I think the resulting RFP, but the working product, until it's final, is still working product. And so we wouldn't necessarily need to put that out per se. But if you wanted to, then we could work on that. It just adds a layer of complexity to posting for the agenda, that we may not need. I mean, ultimately, the result of that homework will be conveyed in each meeting. And so it's available.
Yeah.
okay.
And yeah, and these are recorded sessions, right? And when we're sharing the things on the screen too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can
yeah.
have that. Yeah. And I just will caveat that if there comes a point when I think it might, and I'm not an attorney. Oh, Adrian, you are, right? No, you're not. Oh, okay. You had the risks and opportunities of an attorney. Sorry. But I'm not an attorney, but I do think, if there's anything that I think could disadvantage you in a negotiating position within this discussion, relative to when it comes down to the negotiations with a developer, I would advise going into executive session in those cases, but I haven't foreseen any of that yet, but just flagging it as it's, I think, one of your powers to do if you think it might.
Well,
But
yes, we should keep
advantage.
that in mind
It's
as
up to
we
you. Yeah.
progress. I know one of the things I'm going to do is go through and the document that you submitted, Stephanie, and comment on it as a sort of first step. Things
Sure.
that I think are like no-brainers, yes, this should be included, and then any other comments that in addition to whatever.
Basically that's what I'm going to give you back, Sal. So for your homework, and you'll have it by Monday, maybe midday Monday, but that I'll include the updated timeline with the edits we've made today, for you to feel free to add comments to if you want. And then you're going to have each of those as kind of an assignment, like these are the options, which of these do you like or not like, and options for where would you add more. But I'm going to add some context to it. So you might wait for that document or use whatever you want to comment on today and then just add it into the document I sent.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it'll be much like the document you've already got.
Stephanie, I know we've kind of communicated this through Mike before, but it would be really helpful. We've seen the Dorset RFP.
Yeah.
But if we could see examples of other RFQs of just kind of the kinds of things or the RFP, like
Yeah.
whatever. But, I think that I think more examples that we can see the kind of incentives and guardrails that communities are putting in these documents, I think it would be helpful.
So, we can, and I think what I came back from that with after I talked with David was that Well, yes, we can, and we'll submit it. We can submit it back to you, that with a confidential, really it's for internal use only, not to be shared out, document. But in essence, what I've done is take all of the examples that we've ever worked on.
Put it into a thing.
That's
Yeah.
what I've got for you, is
Okay.
that the structure, like what you're going to review is not going to surprise you, because everything that I've just told you in the structure is exactly what you would see in all those others, as well
Right.
as then all the options. So those options are a coalescence of all the different kind of communities,
Got it.
what options they've used. I just tried to make it
Yeah.
easier for you than you culling. I was kind of your chat GPT. I was taking it all and doing it so that you don't have to read through all of those and put it in.
Okay.
But for essence of trying to understand what it looks like, yes, I can send it to you.
That'd be helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, where are we? The agenda is kind of blended, hasn't it? Roles and responsibilities, input and decision items. That's our homework and response. Example incentives, we just discussed examples, right? So we'll have a sampling of what kind of incentives have been offered in the past and so on, and we can dream up some of our own, I suppose.
Mhm.
And yeah, go ahead. And we've scheduled our 4 meetings. So what else do we need to cover before we adjourn?
I'm still waiting,
Well,
so.
Yeah, in a minute, Steve. Anything else?
I just think it's important to have like a common, there's definitely going to be like elements of this that I think we're going to disagree on and have to like hash out. But I think in terms of like framing where we are in this process and the track that we have taken, like, I don't know why, maybe it's a terrible analogy, but I just keep thinking about marriage, right? That like, we don't want to plan the wedding before we've met the bride, right? And like what we're doing right now is like getting on a dating app to meet people, right? So we haven't made like commitments, or we're not making commitments to anyone, right? We're not signing our community away, right? We're simply like opening up to the universe to see what's possible. And I understand that there are members of the community that feel like, well, we need to have done much more kind of due diligence or master planning. Like, I understand that. That's a reasonable kind of approach to this. But I think we're taking a different track to say, let's meet people, have conversations, date a while, and see what develops, as opposed to just like, this is the only thing that we want, right? So I think we need to like frame consistently community, like help communicate to the community, like where we really are and what this process will look like. Because I think there is a lot of anxiety. This is a beautiful piece of property. It's our future. There's so much here, right? But I think we just need to, kind of be steady in our expectation setting.
Great, thank you, Ben. Steve, if you have something new, I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah, well, new might mean you haven't heard it before, not for no fault of my own. The real risks here is if we rush this process, we're going to basically lead these developers to thinking we're ready and ask them to invest a lot of time, and then let everybody down and further alienate the development community, which Montpelier had. Just look at Sabins Pasture. There's a reason the development community thinks poorly of Central Vermont and Montpelier. So one key point is that the CDBG-DR money had $3 million set aside for planning. We could potentially apply for $1 million of that for planning and do this right. Additionally, another alternative would be to focus on the resilience portion and design the multi-use path from town up through Sabins and into the Country Club Road. That would be a much more, give us the breathing room to do this right. To drive all this into the developer. And Ben, no, I don't want to go on your dates. The law requires public participation in this process. Our city plan is under appeal right now. There's a chance we won't get any of these due to the fact that we didn't adhere to law on our plan. So with a plan under appeal, with an incomplete environmental assessment, you're really on thin ice asking developers. You're leading the developers improperly down a path that they can't win. So I would encourage you to focus on applying for planning grant money and possibly Saban's multi-use path into Country Club Road, and focus on resilience, but while we develop a master plan. And I think I think that you should pose those questions more articulately and have White and Burke respond to them. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Adrian, you mentioned something about a planning grant earlier, did you?
Yeah, so Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission has a grant opportunity that's open now. Its deadline is November 5th, and it's for a planning grant that could potentially help us continue our planning on the property. I don't know if it's like for a master plan. I don't know, but it's, continuing to work through our, getting clarity around the property. It's not a huge amount of money, but I don't know.
$30,000. And
Yeah.
your description of it is accurate,
Okay.
right? It's for communities to help plan in various different ways, but yeah, it could certainly be used for this.
I mean,
Well,
yeah.
perhaps we should look into that and explore it. It's also a tight deadline.
Yep.
I made a note of it, so we'll look
Okay.
into it.
Okay, great.
Ju-
All right, anything else? Otherwise, we await our homework assignments.
Looking
Stephanie,
forward
thank
to
you
it.
thank you so much for your help on this, and thanks, Sal, for navigating the meeting.
I should mention that I had monthly between 2023 and now monthly checked in and said, do you need me? Do you need me? What's happening there? Can something happen? Are you guys moving? So this is very exciting. I'm excited to take the next step. I'm
Well,
excited
thank you,
to see
Stephanie.
who's coming.
It's been very helpful. Really looking forward to what we come up with.
Great. Looking
Yeah.
forward to it. See you guys next week.
All
Everybody.
right, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Sal.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.